Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin, Sammy Davis Jr., individual hit makers. Collectively, they were called the Rat Pack, battling for airplay against the British invasion, Motown, and, well, psychedelic rock. They still garnered 6 top 25 hits on the Billboard Hot 100. I'm Phil Yale. He's Trip Rogers. This is Trippin' Up Challenge. All right, here we go. Can you name 8 of those Rat Pack artist classics? If you already are, let's start tripping.
Well, okay, you talk about Frank Sinatra. You talk about one of the giants of the music business. And I'm gonna start. We did a tripping up on the year of 1967. And 1967 was when Frank Sinatra and Nancy Sinatra topped the Billboard chart with "Something Stupid."
Is absolutely right. That's the only father-daughter number one hit that I'm aware of on the Hot 100.
Yes, that is correct. That is correct. Okay, Dean Martin actually had a big hit in 1964, and during the British invasion, which in some ways I think radio stations played it as kind of a, I don't know, antithesis of all the British invasion stuff. Everybody loves somebody.
Yeah, apparently he told his son, quote, "I'm gonna knock your little Beatles off the top," unquote.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. Um, Sammy Davis Jr., part of the Rat Pack, had a huge number one hit with a song from Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, which was "The Candy Man."
Yep, a classic song, perhaps on the list of one of my least liked number one songs from back in the day. That peaked at number one in 1972. Very good.
Yeah. Frank Sinatra had a number of hits. "That's Life."
That's Life. Yes, peaked at number 4 in 1966.
I think it wasn't "Summer Wind" a hit in the '60s?
Good, very good. This barely got in. It peaked at number 25. Summer Wind, that was in 1966.
All right, now Frank Sinatra. Before I give this, I got to tell a story real quick. In the '70s, I was young, and hairdressers were the thing, and so I went to my mother's hair salon to get my hair cut. And they listened to WNEW in New York, which was a very famous MOR station. They played all the classics and stuff. And the owner was like a huge Frank Sinatra fan and kept telling me how great he was. And I said, look, Frank Sinatra gets on WABC. I'll play a Frank Sinatra record. Summer of 1980, the theme from New York, New York was played on WABC. So I said, all right, I'll play a Frank Sinatra record. And I have since then just loved Frank Sinatra songs. So again, theme from New York, New York.
Peaked at number 32. That would be one of the 2 songs that would immediately come to my mind, but did not make this list.
Okay, I'm trying to think of, I'm trying to fill in with Dean. Like I said, Frank had so many. "That's Life." Oh, "My Way."
My Way.
How did I forget that one?
That's okay. It peaked at number 27.
Well, who wrote that, right?
Gosh, not Frankie Valli.
No, Paul Anka.
Paul Anka. Hey, Paul Anka. All right.
Paul Anka. Paul Anka. There's a great documentary. I want to say it's on. I think it's on HBO about Paul Anka, and talks about the fact that in his early days he was in Vegas with Frank Sinatra, and he considered it an honor to write a song for Frank Sinatra. An honor.
So there were 16. I'm looking for 8. Let's see what we have so far. We have Everybody Loves Somebody, Something Stupid, The Candy Man, That's Life. That's a total of 4. We're halfway there. Then we got number 5, which is Summer Wind. There was a song that was a number 1 song for Frank Sinatra back in 1966.
"Strangers in the Night."
Strangers in the Night. That would have been the first one I think I would have come up with.
Okay. All right.
Then there was one in 1964 by Dean Martin, 1965 by Dean Martin, 1960, Frank Sinatra, a kind of a classic children's song in a way. Sammy Davis Jr. came back with one in 1969.
"I Gotta Be Me" would be Sam Davis Jr.
Peaked at number 11. You are right. That's the one.
Yeah.
Couple more, bunch by Dean Martin. Dean Martin had more than anybody else.
That's Amore.
That one didn't. That one didn't
Yeah.
show up on this list. There was one that kind of rhymes with Amore. There was a Dean Martin one from the 50s. That was right when the Billboard Hot 100 became the Billboard Hot 100. Rhymes with Amore. That's Amore.
right. But
Yeah, that's it.
yeah, Valari, yeah. Yeah, I guess Dean did do that song.
There's another one for, Sammy Davis Jr., by the way.
That old Black Magic?
Nope, not on
I'm
this
trying to
list.
think of the songs that Sammy was associated with.
Yeah, these really make it difficult, and that's why I was only looking for 8 of the 16. As I look at that,
Oh, Dean, ain't that a kick in the head?
no,
No,
uh,
okay, it was too early.
not on this list. There's not a single one left on this list that I would call, at least to me, familiar, with the exception of the Frank Sinatra song that is very reminiscent of a children's song.
Yeah, you said that, and I'm trying to remember that one.
Well, there's the Golden Arches and there's a farm.
Love and Marriage.
I I love how you got love a love and marriage from the Golden Arches and a farm. That's not it.
Oh. Well, the reason why I got no, I was thinking of the Arch of St. Louis, the Golden Arch of St.
Yeah,
Louis.
okay, there you go.
That was the beginning of, oh god, The Fox Show, Married with Children, and that was the theme song to it. That's where I got it from. So, Golden Arches, man.
Peaked at number 11 in 1960 by Frank Sinatra. The name of the song is Old MacDonald.
Oh, I
Yeah, had me.
okay.
Dean Martin, by the way, from Steubenville, Ohio, had a song peaked at number 6 in 1964. I'm just gonna start to give you these trips because these are all very difficult. The Door Is Still Open to My Heart. That one that
Okay.
are you familiar with that? I'm not really familiar with that one.
No.
I Will by Dean Martin, 1965. That was a cover of a Vic Dana song, peaked in the top 10. Then there's one from a city in Texas, named after a city in Texas, written by Lee Hazelwood, who also wrote These Boots Are Made for Walking. Of course, that was for Nancy Sinatra. Name of that
No
song,
idea.
Houston. And here are the remaining ones on the list. Remember Me, I'm the One Who Loves You, Dean Martin. You're Nobody Till Somebody Loves You. That one I do remember. You're nobody till somebody
Yeah, that was the one that's the one I couldn't
loves
think of.
you. Okay, I could sing that if you want me to.
No, please don't. Please don't.
Hey, I know the
No,
editor.
love you to death, man, but no, please don't.
I know the editor. The other Sammy Davis Jr. song was "The Shelter of Your Arms."
See, it's funny because in the 60s, you had in terms of radio, AM radio was big, and you had top 40, but you also had a lot of what they call middle of the road stations. And so, you had Frank Sinatra, Vic Damone and Frank and Sammy Davis, and they would play these songs. Patty Page. Patty Page had a hit, 1969, Is That All There Is? That was a big hit. And again, because radio stations appealed to a wide variety, so that was getting played on WABC. I mean, it's amazing because I did a survey for my music yearbook show, and it showed up there, and I was like, "Oh, is that all there is?" And I'm like, "Wow, that was on there." I mean, it's amazing stuff. Perry Como, It's Impossible was a hit in the 1970s, you know. But again, the music business changed in the 70s, and adult contemporary was where you started to find. I mean, listen, also think about the 60s, Engelbert Humperdinck,
Yep.
Tom Jones, and they were not considered pop artists. They were more adult artists, but they still did. Herb Alpert and Tijuana Brass, too. I think the Carpenters also appealed to that crowd to a certain extent.
The final song on the list was "Cycles" by Frank Sinatra. That was in 1968. On the B-side, Trip, do you have any additional comments? I got a couple things here.
You've mentioned we're watching stuff. Just happened to come upon a documentary, Sinatra in Palm Springs, and it was on, I think, Prime. And we watched it the other night, and it's fascinating because Frank Sinatra essentially lived there for the last 30 years of his life and based the business and made Palm Springs into a big deal. It was just interesting to see how much of an influence Frank Sinatra had, much like Elvis in Memphis, Frank Sinatra in Palm Springs.
Palm Springs is gonna come up in a future episode of Trippin' Up. I'm gonna give you
Okay.
a heads up there. As far as the Rat Pack goes, were there some other unofficial members? There were some other names that I associate with the Rat Pack. Are there some other names that come to mind on your end?
Peter Lawford, who of
Peter
course was the
Lawford,
president's in-law, and
right?
that was and that's a big thing. Angie Dickinson, who hung
Yep.
out with them, was part of Ocean's 11.
Of course,
Well, I get Paul Anka hung out with them too because he was appearing in Vegas at that time.
The research I did indicated a classic five consisted these are in addition to, so it'd be six, A.J. Dickinson. Frank Sinatra, called the chairman of the board, of course. Dean Martin, his title was the King of Cool. Sammy Davis Jr., the greatest entertainer. And then Joey Bishop, called the Frown
I just
Princess
literally
of
just
Comedy.
thought of him when you started listing them.
Yeah.
Joey Bishop.
And you mentioned that Lawford was indeed the brother-in-law of President Kennedy. He was the bridge to the Rat Pack between the White House and to the group. There was a fallout, though, in 62 where JFK snubbed Sinatra by staying at somebody else's house instead of Frank Sinatra's. Remember?
The documentary talked about the fact that Sinatra had bought this compound that he had built and had built. And part of it was he was hoping for the Western White House. And one of the issues was, and listen, Frank Sinatra, Frank Sinatra's life, there were questions about his mob ties. I mean, listen, the Godfather, Frank Sinatra was the model for the actor for that, and he despised that movie because of that. But Sinatra had mob ties, and that was one of the reasons why JFK kind of backed away from him. Sinatra helped him, and that was. And again, the other part of this is that some people feel, if you ask them, that the mob had something to do with JFK being assassinated.
According to the information I had, he snubbed Sinatra by staying at Bing Crosby's house instead. Sinatra blamed Peter Lawford and kicked him out of the group. That's the final note that I've got.
Well, and Lawford was Lawford. I think Lawford didn't get. It wasn't too long after JFK was assassinated that Lawford and Kennedy's sister got divorced. So.
Well, congratulations, Trippy. Again, you conquered this challenge. This one was a difficult one. You know, this Phil Yale channel, I know the guy, Phil Yale. This Phil Yale channel celebrates the golden age of music, the soundtrack of our lives. Hey, thanks for joining us. Hey, do us a favor. If you like the video, like it. Push that like button. Comment. I love reading the comments. Really enjoy those post-show release. And subscribe to the channel. I'm Phil Yale. He's Trip Rogers. Let's keep the record spinning, the coffee hot, and the conversations flowing.